Good morning and a very warm welcome to all of you to today's webinar and discussion on the very interesting topic around building data-driven businesses. Before we start, a couple of logistics items. If you have any questions, please type them into the chat window on the screen. Time permitting, we will endeavor to answer questions at the end. We will also share content delivered today, including the recording of the webinar. Finally, at the end of the webinar, we will share details of Data-Driven Decisions Explorer workshops, which are follow-up face-to-face sessions and interactions we are holding in select cities in November. First up, I'd like to thank our customer speaker today from one of India's largest and most well-known conglomerates for taking time out of his busy schedule to present today. It's an absolute pleasure and privilege to welcome Deep Thomas, Chief Data and Analytics Officer of the Aditya Birla Group. Deep and his team, a newly established group data analytics arm, are solving a wide spectrum of challenges and addressing missed opportunities across Aditya Birla Group companies by harnessing the power of data, technology, and analytics while building the culture of digital adoption, future-ready talent, and innovation. You will hear firsthand from Deep on how the cloud data and analytics platforms he and his team have built have driven business and customer outcomes by enabling a culture of experimentation, prototyping, and innovation. I will kickstart today's session by giving an overview of Amazon's rich history of innovating with data and analytics and the mechanisms by which we support our internal data-driven culture. Then we will hand over to our guest speaker, and then at the end we will open up for questions. Every organization has customer transactions, supplier interactions, digital assets, and possibly connected devices generating data that describes the business. That data, properly analyzed, can guide decisions and even predict the future with some level of confidence. With high enough confidence, decisions can be passed over to AI-powered systems which can learn and act on behalf of people. Data and the logic applied to drive insight represent one of the few remaining sources of competitive advantage. Building more effective data-driven insights in your business could help you improve customer engagements, enhance brand loyalty, optimize supply chains, cost and efficiencies, and even launch new business models. Every customer I speak to recognizes the value in their data and is really committed to improving their analytics capabilities, but often struggle with where to start. Amazon itself has a really long and rich heritage in data and machine learning. We've been investing deeply in artificial intelligence for over 20 years. If we think back to the early days of Amazon, the recommendation engine that powered the online bookstore was key to delivering a level of differentiated customer experience that was unavailable anywhere in the retail world at that time. Today, Amazon uses data and machine learning extensively to optimize order fulfillment. Everything from running algorithms to understand the best warehouse from which to supply your order, to using machine learning to constantly optimize and organize goods within the warehouse based on real-time predictions for high-demand products. Many of you would be aware of the interesting pilots we are running with drone deliveries, leveraging advanced machine learning capabilities to autonomously fly, land, and deliver Amazon products. Echo, powered by Alexa, is driven by data-rich machine learning models and heralds in a new era in which we as humans will interact with technology. And Amazon Go, one of my favorites, possibly redefines the retail experience. The store that enables customers to walk in, select a product, and just walk out leverages data-rich machine learning models, computer vision, and object detection to create an entirely new retail experience, once again delivering differentiated customer experience. We have been working for years to try to make smart use of the data we have for the benefit of our customers. And via AWS, we bring many of these smart capabilities to the market as services you can leverage in your own organizations. One of the common themes that arises in our discussions with customers relates not only to the rich set of analytics capabilities that AWS provides, but more generally to how do organizations actually build out a culture of experimenting with data and deliver better business outcomes. That is, people are asking us, how do I build a data-driven business? Not every customer is the same, and we don't pretend that what we do at Amazon will work for every organization. But let me share a little bit about what we do and what we see working for us. This is the 2015 shareholder letter, and what I find really interesting in this is the concept of experimentation, invention, and embracing failure where necessary. Inside Amazon, I see three really key elements that support the culture of innovating with data. Firstly, in every area of the business, there is a demand that every decision is backed by data. This demand comes from co-workers, from management, and it permeates every level of the business, whether you're in management, whether you're in frontline sales, or whether you're working in support or at the fulfillment center. We have a culture that demands data-driven decision making. Secondly, employees are given the freedom to innovate and experiment with data, and there exist supporting mechanisms and processes to enable people to follow through on the ideas they have. So when I look at this overall, one half is around demand. So demand for insight and demand for data to support decisions. But also there is a supply side to the equation. The supply side consists of tools and the data and providing them in people's hands so it enables them to really experiment rapidly. Before handing over to Deep Thomas to get his perspective, I would like to leave you with one thought. If you want to increase innovation, you need to lower the cost of failure. Now over to Deep for his perspectives.
Navdeep, thank you so much for the introduction, and more so thank you to you and the AWS team for the fantastic partnership, which has helped us come to a point where we are truly seeing the value from data analytics in the organization. The key to successful businesses, or the key to running a successful business, is about making smart decisions, decisions that are accurate, decisions that are relevant, decisions that are timely. And today we'll talk about the new arsenal that business leaders, the C-suite have, with them, known as AI, ML, data analytics. So before we start, let me first start with busting one myth. We do hear from a lot of people that the so-called data analytics, AI and ML is a new phenomenon. Someone, quotes that these are things that have been more prevalent in the last 5 to 10 years. There are others who come from financial services, talk about having evidences of data analytics in the 1980s, 90s. But the reality is that the use of data analytics, or the evolution of analytics, goes way back to the 4000 BC. The Babylonians were the first ones, that were recorded to use census for data collection and essentially for the prediction of food requirement. The commercial usage of analytics happened in the 1950s. The FICO and the founders of FICO, essentially Bill Fair and Earl Isaac, were the first ones who built mathematical models for decisioning. And today, if you look at financial services organizations, that essentially is the life and blood for various risk decisionings. The 1990s saw the emergence of recommender systems. Today, whether it is Amazon or Netflix, they're using a lot of recommender-based systems. In fact, many e-commerce players are using that, where they use concepts of collaborative filtering around it. And as we look into today and the future, there is not even one business or one sector or one area which has not been touched and transformed or disrupted through the use of data science. Things like healthcare, music, education, in addition to other sectors such as manufacturing or sports, are now using and realizing endless possibilities through the use of data analytics. So the first thing is, it's only now that we're seeing the nexus of forces coming together to help organizations maximize the benefits from data analytics. And when I say the nexus of forces, essentially there are 5 things that have come together. First is the falling prices of hardware, which makes it easy for organizations to store massive amount of data. Availability of various types of software, open source, which are relatively a fraction of a cost that organizations need to bear. The connectivity between humans, connectivity between machines, connectivity between humans and machines, which is essentially allowing us to generate lots and lots of data, which can then be analyzed. And then the fourth is the cloud, which allows organizations to set up their shop, overnight and scale it up as per the demands, from the organization. And the last is the level playing field, which almost warrants a competitive and an innovation mindset for organizations to start leveraging data as a competitive advantage. So all of these together essentially has set the stage for leveraging data analytics to generate business value. But if we were to look at data analytics, I would just simplify it into two things. Smart decisions require good data. Now, good data could be data that belongs to the enterprise, which is a lot of internal data which comes from consumers, suppliers, employees, operations, and what have you. But also external data that could be relevant, for a particular business, which may come from various public sources or external proprietary, sources, which together could then be mined using various types of traditional advanced analytics to generate sharper insights, which then help the organization make smart decisions. But equally important is that when we look at data and analytics to make decisions, it has to be on the bedrock of three things. The first is the infrastructure, because you do need an infrastructure which allows you to store, compute, mine this information. You also need to make sure that you are conforming to the various data security privacy standards so that you continue to establish the trust amongst your consumers and the ecosystem. And last but not the least, you need to have the talent, the multifunctional talent that understands the business context and understands the usage of the data and its interpretation and the mining to drive the right recommendations. So that this essentially summarizes the key tenets that are required to make smart decisions through data analytics. Organizations should not be hampered or constrained because of the lack of technology infrastructure. And today we are in a day and age where this essentially is becoming one of the biggest enabler to drive the use of AI and ML and analytics across the enterprise. The three things that you require, of course, as I said earlier, storage. Regardless of the type of data that is out there, I should have the ability to store it. Whether this data is getting generated in microseconds, in minutes, in hours, I should not get constrained in my ability to store this information. Second is the technology. I should have the ability to seamlessly use various types of technology, open source or legacy software, for me to be able to apply the right tool for a particular use case. And third, my ability to compute this information real time, near real time, edge, batch, so that I can make the right decisions timely and in the most appropriate manner. To look at the parameters on which one could identify right platform, I think simply stated, there are 5 things that one would want. One is scalability. As organizations mature, as organizations start seeing the value from data analytics, they need to have the ability to dynamically increase or reduce or optimize the platform. So scalability becomes an extremely important criteria. I may not want to bring in all the necessary wherewithal today because I don't understand the use cases. So I should have the ability to start small and scale up as and when that I want. The second is flexibility. The world is progressing at a tremendous pace with the evolution and the availability of various types of open source codes, softwares, and standards. I should have the flexibility which allows me to seamlessly bring in a new, proven, tested open source or something that is out there in the market that I want to just try and test before I go full swing at it, and not be constrained through an existing vendor which has a lock-in period and then constrains me in terms of leveraging something new that is out there. So flexibility is equally important for us to run a nimble organization. The third in this day and age, which is fundamental to the organization establishing trust, is security. An organization which is building a platform has to have one of the parameters, security, which is the conformance to the various governance standards, the security, the networking protocols, and what have you. The fourth is the ecosystem. There is a mindset which is, if it's not built in-house, it's not the best. But I think very quickly, we're all realizing that the world is moving towards a shared economy. And the sooner we realize that there are proven use cases, architectures, and solutions and apps that we can bring in quickly, the sooner we will be able to compete, in this fast evolving landscape. So ability to, quickly tap into an ecosystem of solutions that are already there, which are in matured state, is also another criteria that is important for organizations when they look at the infrastructure. And last but not the least is availability. You can't have a downturn period. You've got situations where organizations have lost billions of dollars because they don't have a platform which is available and is available with ease. So it's important that you have the parameters of availability and the ease when it comes to setting up the platform. So we looked at these 5 parameters, and I'm sure there are many more, but to me these 5 are fundamental, and we found AWS as the right partners in terms of enabling the solution. Any business that is looking and making decisions can now look at leveraging data analytics to aid them with more data points, with more actionable insights, so that they are able to make the right decisions. And as we all know, regardless of the function that we are in, whether it is marketing, risk, operations, manufacturing, HR, legal, finance, and what have you, all the sectors that we are operating in, we do make decisions. And as leaders, we are expected to make the right decisions. So there is no one area which can be avoided or which can be set aside as not a use case for analytics. And any senior leader or any MD or any C-suite who's looking at growing revenues or looking at risk mitigation or looking at reducing operational expense or delivering superior customer experience would need data analytics as an ammunition for them to differentiate themselves. Essentially, for every application, these 3 things are fundamental, right? The sources of data that I'm going to use, the technology that will be required for me to organize information, and the technique that I will apply in order to get the most predictive power or the most relevant solution out there. Now, as the sources of data gets added, the sources of data that is relevant and gets amalgamated, so does the type of technology, which becomes more complex, and the type of technique that needs to be applied. But we all know the more data points or the more good data points that are applied to solve a particular problem, more precise is the action that you could take, and more accurate would be your final decision that you would be making. So let's take a couple of examples, hopefully to bring this together. So let's look at one of the applications, which is product quality. And of course, we have a fairly large manufacturing setup where we have plants and we produce a number of manufacturing products. And one of the things around production quality is how do we look at the varied forms of data that is getting captured in our manufacturing plant and derive insights to help reduce or help first identify poor product quality, the root cause behind the poor product quality, and eventually be able to improve the customer satisfaction by reducing the rejection rate. Right. So again, the key to this is to have connected plants with cost-effective sensors. It is now possible for us to connect the various parts of the plants and be able to capture various types of operational parameters, as well as things related to the production of a particular product, like humidity, pressure, temperature, and so on and on. And one of the things that we are doing here is we are analyzing the various process parameters from our sensors. We are then overlaying the various types of metallurgical and mechanical data to understand the correlations between each of these process parameters and the final product quality, and then look at what are those product units that are most likely to have quality defects. Very simple. Understand what data needs to be captured, look at the right infrastructure in terms of capturing this information, and then apply various techniques, overlaying it with various business applications and technical concepts to understand the correlations to arrive at the root cause and predictions on likelihood of quality defects. The next example is around assortment, product assortment. Now, whether you're running a food and vegetable business, or you're running a retail business selling apparels, or for that matter, you're running businesses which has got multiple products, I think it is important to understand what should be a right assortment strategy to be able to optimize the usage of your store and be able to drive the maximum sales from your consumers. Here again, our approach is to look at a combination of external and internal data, understanding the market trends, understanding the existing customer needs, understanding the behavior of the catchment area, looking at the differences in taste clusters and preferences of our consumers and their profiles for a particular location, optimizing the buyer's plan so that we know exactly how to plan our assortment for the season, and eventually understanding what kind of demand and growth would be expected so that we are able to preempt the target gaps more judiciously, more effectively through the use of data analytics. To summarize, the reason I share with you these examples are because they cut across sectors, they cut across functions, and they cut across different businesses. So, as parting thoughts, I will leave you with 5 things that I've learned and 5 things that, my organization, my team and I, practice diligently. The first is there may be many things that one could do, but it's extremely important that we prioritize and work on the ones which are most important to the business. So you focus with concerted effort on things that have a top business priority, which has probably the largest impact and minimal effort. And then you have a razor sharp execution focus, defining the contours of what your proof of concept would be so that you deliver it in a timeline of 4 to 12 weeks, show the results, quantify the benefits, and then scale it up. The second is, a lot of people talk about big data. I think there is value in small data as well. So before we create this data lake, or before we create this big pond with all the fish, it is important to see the value from the single goldfish that may be in your aquarium. What I mean by that is the small data, or whatever limited data that you have available to you internally, could be of value. So look at the value that you can generate out of that data, generate the maximum value out of it, and then go about augmenting it with other sources available internally through more effective processes to capture information, and further augmenting it with external data sources that is available. The third is measure to manage. Absolutely important that we define the contours of success. We have the right KRAs, we have the right alignment in terms of what is it that we are measuring, how are we going to measure success, how we will claim success, what are the conditions that will help us define that this particular project is a success or a failure, who should have the accountability in terms of not only building the solution but also implementing it, how do we have a team which represents the business teams, the analytics teams, the technology functions, so that we are operating as one concerted effort in order to deliver on the single objective to have superior business results. The fourth is, as I said earlier, absolutely important to have a culture of innovation and experimentation. Not everything that you try would be successful, but it is equally important for you to keep trying, but have the ability to try and learn fast, from your failures. And I do believe that through the culture of innovation, through the culture of test and learn, or the organizations will be able to successfully get the maximum out of data analytics. And last but not the least, have a strong vigility and awareness, for agility, not only in terms of us as an organization to be agile and nimble in terms of adopting new techniques, but also awareness around what's happening not only in your sector in terms of the disruptions or in terms of the use of new techniques, but things that we can plug and play from other organizations. So have a much stronger outside-in view, whether it is setting up hackathons or startups or working with partners, in this case AWS in our example, or with the ecosystem of solution providers, so that you can quickly test a particular concept, run with the proof of concept, show the results, and then look at industrializing the solution for the organization. With that, I come to the conclusion of my presentation, and I thank you all, for patiently listening to me.
Thank you, Deep, for taking the time out of your busy schedule to present today. It's a privilege to have your input and hear your story. We will continue to bring you other insightful stories, real customer journeys, driving measurable business and customer outcomes in a data-driven decisions Explorer Sessions Roadshow, scheduled for the 21st of November in Bangalore and the 22nd of November in Mumbai. We're looking to add other cities as well, and we will stay in touch with you on the next steps to register for those. We're open now to take questions, so please feel free to type your questions in the webinar Q&A, and over the next 2 working days, we will respond to your questions. Thank you for taking the time to attend this webinar. We look forward to seeing you face-to-face at the Data Driven Decisions Explorer Sessions series later in November.